listening to the Savvy Musician Show with Leah McHenry, and this is your secret weapon for success in the new music industry. Hey, welcome to the Savvy Musician Show. I'm Leah McHenry, your host, and I have a very special introduction for you today. I am joined by our new co-host, CJ Ortiz. He's the metal motivator. He is an amazing human being. He is an expert on mindset and branding and a whole bunch of other great things. And he's also a coach in our elite program. So I am really excited to have him join us today. Welcome.
Leah, it's so good to be here. Thank you for making this happen. For those who don't know, like you just said, I work with you on the mindset and branding stuff as a coach in the elite program. Known each other for a very long time, and I do my stuff on my side. And just a few weeks ago, I was sitting around thinking, man, I've got to get another guest on my marketing podcast. And of course, I always think of you, but I always want to make that interview special because it's just, you're so significant in relation to other people. So thinking about that one day, I thought, you know what am I going to do after Leah? Who am I going to bring on? Because and the other thing was, I can't just contain my discussion with Leah in one podcast. There's so much that we can talk about. And so as I thought about it, I just thought, you know what might be better is I join Leah on her podcast, because she's interviewing, you interview so many people, but in all honesty, Leah, you're really the expert that people most want to hear from. There's so much great content you get from the guests that you have on your show, and you're going to keep, obviously having those people on there. But I thought, you know what? I know what to ask her. I know how to carry a discussion and really begin to mine the wealth that's in there. And so I thought, you know what? Let me just throw it out there. And I had sent you a message about it. And you said, you know what? I was kind of thinking about having a co-host. And so get used to it, guys.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome. CJ, just beware, because he and I can go down some crazy rabbit holes, but we're going to try to stay focused. And keep these segments pretty short, if that's even possible. But I promise that whatever we talk about is going to be really good. So, yeah.
Yes. So if we do an episode on focus, watch, we'll go down about 8 rabbit trails.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, it's going to be really great. So I'm excited to have you here. And I know our elite students value you so much. My mic almost just fell off. Hang on. Yeah, our elite students value your input and your insights so much. And every session, they're just like, man, that was such a game changer for me. So it's going to be a real treat for everyone listening in. If you're not part of our elite program or not in any of our courses, you're just going to learn a ton from CJ and these sessions. So it's going to be good.
Hey, awesome group, awesome people in that group. And, we had shared this in the group that we were going to do this, and they just responded like they always do, enthusiastic, energized. And I hope people understand that. Maybe those who are listening, even if they are musicians, don't quite understand. What do you mean by the group? Well, that's a private Facebook group that you host. I have one of my own, but it's the same dynamic. And I often tell people when I'm pitching my own group, so to speak, I'll say, you know what? You're going to get this as far as content. You're going to get this instruction. You're going to get this. But you know what the real value is? The people that are in the group. And because it does give you this tremendous environment of positivity. There's no naysayers. It's so great to be in your group, especially your elite program, because, man, I'm in there with the best of the best. I'm in there with people who have been vetted for this sort of thing. And so being able to just communicate the stuff that I do to people that receptive, that sharp, that ready to take action, man, it's just a whole nother level.
Yeah, it really is awesome. And just to clarify, we have a few groups. We have a free group, and if you're not in it, definitely join it. It's called the Savvy Musician Mastermind. You can just type that in the Facebook search and you'll find that, and definitely join there. We post the podcast episodes when they release there. We've got great content and great community. There's, I don't know, somewhere around 4,000 or 5,000 people in there. It's really great. And then we have an official student group, and that's for any student of ours who have ever been in any program, and that is Savvy Musician Academy official group, I think it's what it's called.
Right.
And that one you can get extra customer support there, and just support from the other group members and asking questions about the courses. This group that we're referring to is our Savvy Musician Academy Superfan System Elite group. And so that's a smaller group of people who are going through a very specific program. It's a very intensive mentorship kind of a program, taking you all the way from just the beginning of trying to launch your music out into the world, all the way through very advanced Facebook ads for a lot of people. Branding, website, it's mindset, it's so many things. Anyways, it's a lot more advanced version of some of our previous programs. So
yeah, it's extremely extensive. I'm amazed at how much, when I first, joined up as a coach, I was amazed at how much, and the questions that people were asking. And in fact, I had a friend of mine I was talking to last night who's a very accomplished musician, songwriter, producer. Remember the gentleman who was helping us one time with some of the technical stuff on the podcast? I was
yes.
with him last night, and what he's trying to put something together now. I said, bro, I could try to talk to you, but you really need Leah. So I turned him on to your free group last night. I said, you should start here.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a great place to start, is the free group. I post articles there. There's a lot of just great community happening and really good discussion, most of all. And yeah, I mean, Facebook is really promoting groups right now too, by the way. And we did another podcast episode on that. If you're thinking about how you can promote your music organically, and it's almost like the Facebook groups have replaced the page in a way.
Yeah.
Even though it's still useful to build your page, and I still do build my page just for the sheer fact of social proof and other things. But the Facebook group is really what Mark Zuckerberg said that they're focusing on, because of the organic discussion, community, meaningful relationships are the words that he used. Right. And so that's what's happening in groups. So that's where you want to be.
Well, being on this podcast, again, as I said a little while ago, man, I want to get the best out of Miss Leah. And, just for those who may not know, our particular friendship and relationship goes back several years now. And I was privileged to be there when she released her first album. And, what a remarkable thing that was. And I know, Leah, that you've grown so much in so many ways since then, but still what you came out of the gates with was just so impressive at the time. And for those who need a little social proof and legitimacy, I was there, as I've said numerous times, when Leah and her family were struggling to make ends meet, and she was not the Leah, just from an economic standpoint, that she is today. Nobody really knew who she was. And I remember talking to them on the phone about where they were at that time. And so I had a front row seat and was just as blown away as anybody else was by just that meteoric rise, and, Leah, that really says something about, because you and I both kind of had a similar path, but we were there when, tracking in our own personal projects at the same time social media was evolving. I remember when I first started, there wasn't much advertising options. There wasn't really, even the business pages were still relatively new, so this is an ongoing thing. And one of the things I appreciate about what you do is that you're always current on, what things are going on. It's like you said, Facebook groups are good now. Facebook is focusing on groups now. Well, yeah, that's a contemporary thing. Wasn't the case necessarily, a couple of years ago, but now it's becoming more of the thing. And that's a tremendous value. And so even at a personal level, when you and I talk about some of these things, you've been a tremendous resource for me. But yeah, man, I mean, staying on top of this stuff, it's critical. It is literally real time.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing that I love about just marketing in general is that I've learned that the tactics change because the market's constantly changing. There's always an evolution happening. You can't stop it. And it is frustrating because you think, oh, once I learned this thing and now it's changed again and now the algorithm changed. And that's always going to be the case. But one thing I really love about marketing is that the principles of marketing never change. So they're always the same no matter what. And so what I've learned from great people in the marketing world, and that's how I had any success at all, by the way, was I stopped studying the music industry. I just started studying business and classic marketing. And what works anywhere on any platform in any era. And that's what I learned about. And then, once you have that, then nothing is intimidating anymore.
Right.
It's nothing. You don't have to be afraid of algorithm changes, because you go, okay, well, it's changed. Now I'm going to figure out how to make that work for me. And
Right.
I'm going to use these classic principles, and I'm going to figure out how to make it work for me.
Isn't that amazing? And what you just said, I hope everybody took note of that because it's such a critical point. You stop studying the music industry, and you started to study marketing. I mentioned my friend just a few minutes ago who I referred to your free group. He was talking about a project he was doing, and I said, dude, if I were you, I would focus on your music. And he said, no, man, too old. I said, no, no, you're not. Oh, no, you're not. And so I just kind of share with him basically that super fan philosophy. We're not looking for the whole world. So he, in a sense, still thinking in classic music industry mindset, as opposed to saying, no, if I get those super fans, if I get those, dedicated few or whatever that who have I've converted into super fans who love my music, who can't wait for the next thing that I'm coming out with. If I can build a following of those people and I can have engagement with those people and I can offer those people products and music and merchandise, that resonates with that culture, etc. There is whatever happened in the music industry in the past is completely irrelevant. The only thing that matters is your little music industry that you just created.
I love that. That's so true. Because it's all about creating your own little ecosystem nowadays. It's not about being world famous. And I have to laugh every time I see a Facebook comment from somebody on one of our ads where they're like, I've never heard of you. Like I've never heard of you. I'm like,
Right.
guess what? You're not in my target market. So of
There
course you
you
haven't
go.
heard of me. Are you a fan of Celtic fantasy metal? Probably not.
There you
So
go.
why would you have heard of me? It
Right.
just makes me laugh. It's like they don't get it. Like you don't have to be world famous. It's so different now. Just like I don't know any country artists. I don't know the up and coming or
Right.
or underground country artists for that matter who are doing really well underground. Why would I know that? I'm not a country fan.
Exactly. I mean, that is literally the kind of world you live in now. And so I have watched this. I've read the comments that people say to you. I've had personal conversations with people in I've been visiting other states, and of course I know musicians in a lot of these places, and so I'll be at a backyard party or something and I'll bring up the subject, and somebody will say, I know who that is, I've seen her ads. And so the comments that I'll see online, they're same comments I see in person. And the number one thing is what you just said. They're still being governed by this older paradigm. Well, if you, in other words, if you are something, if you are successful or of significance, then I would have heard of you. You would have been on the Grammys. You would have been on the Country
Mm-hmm.
Music Awards. You would have been in this or that. No, not necessarily. But here I sit across right now talking to someone who is a mother of 5 kids who she homeschooled, doesn't tour, on fourth album, and does 6 figures a year without any of that touring. So, what is it exactly that you want? Are you wanting to be like, I just saw Metallica not too long ago here in my city. They broke the record of attendance for the stadium there in its 17-year history, completely broken. Well, everybody says, those days are gone. In other words, if you're thinking you're going to be another Metallica, so some people have that sort of thing in their mind that they deem that to be successful. But I think if you really got down to the heart of any musician, any true artist, they just want to do their art, you know? They want to connect with people, but I don't think it's just that, no, if I don't get to do it for millions of people around the world, then I don't want to do it. No, I think most people are working their day jobs, doing things they don't love, and so that they can keep, playing music on the side. And they would love just to do, Leah, what you do, but they're never going to do it so long as they stay in that old mindset. It's just not going to happen. So what happens is they end up hoping. And it's just this weird fatalism. It's like they always say, well, life will work itself out. No, it won't. The life that'll get worked out is the life you don't want. If you want life to work out like you want, you're going to have to work that life out. And so that's the beauty, I think, of not only all that you offer, but even something that's like the Savvy Musician Show, this podcast, is that, again, it's putting out that clarion call, that siren call to come over here. you know it's like you are like that siren, and the internet is this river, this massive river that's running out into the sea, and there's all these musicians on there that are just lost. And so there's this siren call, what I mean, this lighthouse from the side saying, come over here, we've got some help for you.
Mm-hmm.
And but the big challenge is just getting people to believe in themselves, but also to believe that there are principles that you could use in
Yeah.
marketing that can take you where you've always wanted to go.
Yeah. I've been called every name under the sun since we launched Savvy Musician Academy and we had ads going out there. I mean, I've been called a snake oil salesman,
Me
scam
too.
artist. I don't know. I mean, and then, I mean, all kinds of like really rude things and
Right.
vile. And I mean, everything.
Terrible.
And it's so old now, right? Like at first you're just like, wow, like where does all this come from? And I have to understand too, because I was the cynical musician once upon a time. I have had some not so great experiences, but it really opened my eyes to, wow, there's a lot of like hurt people out there, hurt musicians who had dreams and maybe they have been scammed in the past, or maybe they have had bad experiences where there were promises made to them that weren't kept, or they were broken, or they just have these dashed dreams and they're disillusioned with everything now. And so I don't take it personal. Although, I mean, there's always an internal human reaction, but I don't take it personal. I do have compassion on people because this is a major shift happening. Nothing like this in the history of music has ever really happened, where you have the internet changing the entire paradigm of everything. So there's people who just don't know the hope that they have. They don't see this as a good thing. They've been told that the new music industry is bad. It's all doom and gloom, and artists are going to starve, and no one's ever going to make money again, and everything's ruined. It's all gone to hell in a handbasket, essentially. So here I come along trying to like spread some message of hope, and nobody knows who I am, some redhead chick saying, I've been making money online with my music. And they're like, bullshit. Like, yeah, whatever.
That can't be true.
Yeah.
It can't happen.
Right. So I understand the cynicism out there just because I get what that sounds like, what it looks like when the only thing you've been told is that it's going downhill for artists. But there are a lot of people, and this is going to take some time. And there are people who already get it. They're already on the new bandwagon of there's opportunity that we've never seen before. And the opportunity that I can actually make money, like what was the other option before all of this? What was the option? It was like either you get signed to a record deal or nobody, like no chance at all.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. If anything, your chances have gone up exponentially, and if you do understand, again, once that coin drops and you understand that as a possibility, and then number two, like you said earlier, once you got your head around and you invested thousands of dollars and thousands of hours into studying marketing, but that so empowered you to say, no, I am in control of, like you said, creating your own ecosystem, your own empire. And, on my side of the street in the speaking industry, I work with a lot of speakers. And so I had a conversation with a coaching call with a bunch of them. And they were telling me how, well, the industry's changed because it's so competitive now, and you can't do this and you can't do that. They're, everybody's being piped in by Skype or something to a convention now. And so the money's not quite there, and you're competing now with celebrities and everybody who's jumping on the social media bandwagon to be speakers. And so it's harder and harder and harder. And so I said, that doesn't make any difference to me whatsoever. I said, you know why? And it's why, because I have a Facebook following. I said, so, I could go into my audience insights and I can see all the major cities, for example, that follow me. What are the biggest cities? Chicago, LA, San Francisco, Dallas, New York, etc. Chicago. Well, I can run ads just to those cities. I can build up audiences just in those cities. I could just target my likes ads just in those cities. And I can build up major populations of followers just in those cities. Why? So that I can hold my own events in those cities. I don't
That's
need to
so awesome. Yeah,
I don't need to be invited to anybody else's stage. It's completely unnecessary. But a band could do the very same thing if you don't tour, but other bands that said they want to tour, right? So
absolutely.
you could build up. I had one friend one time. I said, if I were you, because he's in the New England area, I said, dude, just start. I mean, New England is big. I'm from Texas, which is bigger than New England in total. But in New England, he's like in the Boston area. I said, you can go as high as Vermont and Maine and New Hampshire and all the way down to Jersey and Philadelphia, all within an 8-hour driving distance. And I said, if you just targeted building your audience just in that area, you just ran ads just for that particular area, and you could form relationships with venues and these sorts of things, dude, you could play your own shows.
Absolutely. And we have had students do that, taking our methods, even though I'm teaching a whole online marketing thing. That's the whole point, is that you can take online marketing and apply it to whatever you're doing. So we
Right.
had one of the podcast episodes with Daniel Coates, for example. He's an amazing student, and he's in our elite program now. But he did all of that, everything he accomplished. I mean, his family's touring the world using the ad strategies that we gave them in the Online Musician and the original Superfan system. And he applied it to live events, and he's selling out all these live events. And he took his wife and 2 kids to Europe, and they did this tour, and they're doing like 30 grand a month and stuff, just working the weekends doing these events. And then he was doing little upsells on the next day. So like, hey, you can come to this one event, and then he would upsell for like a workshop for the next day. So it was like a whole weekend thing. Absolutely brilliant. And that goes to show, I mean, once you learn online marketing and the principles that work, the whole idea is you take that and you run with it.
Yeah.
And that you're going to apply it to things, and you're going to think outside of the box. And so that's the brilliant thing, is learn the basics, learn the fundamentals. And I know you're big on learning fundamentals. And from there, you have so many options, and you can go so many places with it.
Yeah, this is, again, and I thought I'd said this on my own podcast to my co-host, and I said, you know what, man, I was talking about you, and I said, in my opinion, this is one of the single most important responses and answers and solutions to what Napster created in the end of the 20th century. I said, because, I've been dealing with musicians now for over 10 years online on the motivational side of things, but I know a lot of musicians, so I know about the status of the industry. And I know, it used to be, they used to say, they used to always use Napster as the foe in all of this. And of course, now it's more streaming music and that sort of stuff. But it's still, that they marked that time period. Once people started to download music for free, and, it launched this era of when everything died, the industry died. And so, well, what's the answer going to be? People are looking for the answer in the industry itself, not thinking that the answer could literally be themselves, not thinking that they could literally be equipped, enabled, empowered with such tools to be able to, again, and I think this is so important. Again, it goes back to what you said, Leah, and you can speak to this. What did it feel like for you when the coin really dropped as you were researching marketing, and you really felt that first moment of empowerment that I'm in control of my career?
I just thought, I never want to do it any other way. I think once you it's so addictive when you start to feel empowered and like you're in control of it, you just go, okay, so if I can scale this, I don't think I could even be tempted by some record deal. And believe me, I've had a lot of inquiries since then. And there's one that every year I get emails from them every year. And the last time I said, I mean, usually I don't even have the conversation with them, because I'm like, I just said to them, what can you do for me that I'm not already doing for myself?
Right. Exactly.
And I mean, okay, I'm not anti-label. There's some great independent labels out there.
Sure.
And I don't want to just paint them all with a broad brush. And there are certain opportunities. So labels, I think one advantage they have is that they've got relationships with some people. So if you want to get into a festival, or, they know people. So it's all about connections and knowing people. But as far as like the actual deal itself, that's a big, hell no from me,
Right.
because it's not, uh, I just can't see giving up my rights. Plus, they're doing a horrible job with marketing. Most of them, like
Right.
this one company, they didn't even have a pixel on their website. I was like, and this was like a big label in the metal world. And I went there, and on one of their sites, no pixel, no Facebook pixel. And if anybody knows anything about online marketing, that's like the worst. That just tells me you don't know anything about
Right.
Facebook ads or online marketing.
Right.
So I pointed that out to him, and he's all like, "Oh, well, we're doing a website." You know, he had some excuse about it, and I had to challenge him, like, if I'm, what I see on the front end is that you guys don't really know what you're doing. You're behind the times.
Right.
So unfortunately, that's just, I'm not tempted by that. So
Yeah, it's an interesting point, because you can extrapolate from that one simple error. It is, and I think, for those who, again, who don't know what a Facebook pixel is, what Leah just said is important to note, because the Facebook pixel is what tracks all the user information from somebody who visits a site or takes an action on a website, like buys something or whatever, puts in their email address. So it tracks that kind of information, which you as a marketer can then use to retarget those people with ads. You ever been on Facebook and you were looking at something on Amazon, and suddenly that product is following you around now, and all your activity on the web? Well, yeah, these are retargeting, but this is all based on things like these Facebook pixels. But what's important, I think, to note here, and why I think this is wisdom, Leah, is that it's like the old saying where you get on the airplane and you pull down the food tray and there's a coffee stain on the food tray. You immediately think, well, there must be a screw loose in the engine too, because
mm-hmm.
somebody's not paying attention to details. And so why would Leah take her work and turn it over to people who are failing in such a simple thing, failing in a fundamental, as we just said? Why would she turn it over? If they can't master that, how in the world are they going to give her what she would ever need, that she cannot not just do herself, but do 100 times better
Yeah.
herself?
And another example, okay, of how I believe that some of these big labels are really behind the times. I don't know who they have running their ads, but I think this was the same label I saw. And they did an ad promoting a band, and it was a music video. And they clearly had their targeting all wrong, because the lyric video, or the music video, was like this female fronted thing, metal band, but they were doing pop covers. Okay. They were doing pop covers. And the majority, I just know from this label, the majority of, and it was well done and everything, but the majority of their followers are not pop fans.
Right.
It's like, that's like the worst thing you could ever show them.
Right.
And they were showing it to, I think, their own fans or whatever. Whatever they had the targeting all wrong. All you had to do was start reading in the comments. And it was like, I had to laugh really hard, because the creative insults that people come up with is really fascinating.
Yeah, right.
But
Yeah.
but people are just like, why are you showing me this? And they were like mad that they were promoting, like, and they had all kinds of insults for the label and all that. And I felt bad for the poor band. If all they had done was target fans of the pop bands instead of these
Right.
metal people, maybe they would have gotten somewhere with it. But they got it all wrong. So I just, another confirmation that I was like, man, these people don't know what they're doing with targeting. So.
Yeah, and again, you've said this several times, and you and I know these terms so well, and a lot of your listeners do, but there's going to be obviously people who listen to the podcast and they're like, what are they, pixels and targets, and what do they mean? But yeah, because one thing that is a motif through everything that you said on this particular episode is just the ability, part of that control is the ability to know who you're reaching. And for those who comment on your ads, as you said earlier, and they're like, I've never heard of you. We're like, well, yeah, well, you're not the person I'm targeting, that would have seen me on these things before. So again,
and those are the Savvy Musician Academy ads, not my music ads, to be clear.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of leads it to the point, which is that, and I do the same thing on my end. It's because, and you would say the same thing, which is, you're studying your audience as much as you're studying anything else. You want to be in the head of your potential, your super fan, as you like to say, right?
Absolutely.
Getting into the mind of your super fan. How was that for you initially? how long did it take you to figure out who your fan was? And you're like, that's who I'm going after.
For me, it actually took me a few years to get very clear on my identity, on my brand, and the direction I was going. I felt like my first album was really a little bit of dipping my toes in the water and sampling, like trying to get a pulse on how people would receive it, because I really didn't know. I didn't think anyone would listen to me anyways, but that's why I put it out everywhere. I put it on YouTube. I put it everywhere.
Right.
I wanted to take the pulse and take the temperature to see what kind of reaction am I getting. So it took me, I mean, I have a process for this now to shorten this entire thing. It doesn't need to take people 3 years,
Right.
but that's how long it took me without any help or guidance.
Right.
So for me to figure out my fan, first of all, I realized one of the most important things is that there are a lot like me, and
Right.
that we have a lot of similar interests. What are the influences that I have that led to me creating this music? So what are my influences musically, in terms of films, TV, books, all kinds of things? What is the culture that has influenced me to even create this kind of music? Chances are that the fans who will like this music also have the exact same interests.
Right.
And when I started surveying them later, which I am a huge fan of, huge proponent of surveying your fans,
Right.
I found out that very thing, that they started telling me about stuff that I didn't even know about that I loved. They were recommending books, and all I have to ask is, yeah, you just have to start a thread. Hey, what's a great book you've read lately? And an Instagram post or something. And then you just get tons of comments and you're like, okay. And then you start doing research on that sort of thing and you go, man, these are my people.
Right. Right.
So
Well, again, it comes back to that empowerment, because you're like, wow, I'm eliminating guesswork, and how, especially when it comes down to the time you invest in marketing and the money that you invest in marketing. You have to invest money, but to know that, I know who I'm reaching, and that helps me, because I'm not going to waste any time or any money on, sending, like that record label did, pop music to diehard metal fans, right? And that kind of stuff. No, I'll be able to target those who are going to, when they see it, they're going to say, how did they know that I like this music? How did somebody know? I'm sure you show up on people's news feeds because you've already looked in the, female fronted Celtic metal kind of stuff. And then you all of a sudden appear on somebody's news feed, and it's like, how in the world would they know that I would be interested in someone like this, Leah?
mm-hmm.
And but they didn't know. Leah did.
Exactly.
Leah knew.
The whole idea is to know your potential fan or customer, whatever it is, better than they know themselves, if that's even possible, but to be in their heads. It should be like you're reading their minds. And so on a lot of my music ads, when I'm putting them out there, whether it's a like ad or a video ad or an opt-in ad, anything like that, I get 99.9% of the time, it's all enthusiasm and positivity. And they're so glad that they just discovered me for the first time. And it's because I know who they are. I know what they like. And it's tricky because Celtic fantasy metal isn't really technically a genre that's known. So I have to do some layering with my targeting. And so we'll talk about, I think we can do a whole episode just on targeting and that sort of thing. But I have to really know them and know what interests go together. So someone who likes Lord of the Rings or reads J.R.R. Tolkien, who also likes certain metal bands like Nightwish and Arch Enemy or whatever it is. And so when you combine them together, suddenly now you have a very distinct personality, almost like an avatar, a culture. So yeah, I get all very positive feedback. And a lot of times they're just like, how did I not know about you? And I think that's that's our biggest challenge as musicians is to help people understand that we exist. Right. we exist in the world. You can't be purchases, or nobody's going to buy anything if they don't first know you exist. And so I think the answer is extreme ownership of this and not waiting for somebody else to do this for you. You've got to own the success or failure of that. And so when you own the outcome, that means you also have to own the means to the outcome, which is online marketing for everybody.
That is so strong, and that's what it means to be a savvy musician. Hence the name of this show, the Savvy Musician Forum.
Yeah.
Thank you, Leah. That was awesome.
Yeah, this is really great. And by the way, this entire conversation was not planned. This was not on the agenda. So
Great introduction.
Yes, wonderful introduction episode. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. This episode was sponsored by the Superfan System Elite program here at Savvy Musician Academy. If you are looking to scale your existing music business and you're looking to get into advanced digital marketing, such as email marketing, funnels, e-commerce, Facebook ads, and more, and you're looking to build a real profitable online music business, book a call with our team at www.callsma.com. We would love to speak with you for about 30 minutes and see how we can help you. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast for more episodes, and we'll see you next time.